All right, you know him as former Patriots center and current podcast host David Andrews. I know him instead as the father of burgeoning golf superstar Ford Andrews, who has a straighter drive than I ever will, appears to be putting well, and this is all from your Instagram stories of very much suburban Dad Dave. How you been, man?
I've been good, man. It's been a different summer. It's been different, and part of me hasn't missed it. There's certain things I miss, but anything in life, there's trade-offs, right? And so, I think in the summer when we did have those 6 weeks off, I never enjoyed it because what was coming was always in the back of my mind. I took one vacation my whole career during the summer, and that was very stressful for me. So there was a lot that, I missed out on and didn't enjoy and things like that when I was playing because I always had something going on in my mind. So to not have that has felt nice. Some days you miss that, but, I truly can't say like I've woken up one day miserable that I wasn't playing football, and
Good.
that makes me feel good.
Right. Well, I'm glad you stuck around. We can hear you, watch you on the Quick Snap podcast. Of course, You're doing 98.5 now on Mondays, but for this next however many minutes we roll here, you're on the Pats Interference podcast, part of the zany, zealous, and zesty CLNS Media Network. So being in media, look, you did plenty enough. You even got our Media Good Guy Award, which I know has got to be above the two Lombardis behind you. Yeah, look, it actually is. It's just a stupid joke that landed. The top of that is higher than the Lombardi trophy.
Yeah, it was. I had to figure out. I got some cool stuff, but yeah, that made it. I like that thing. That's a cool little statue. Yeah. I don't have the base that lights it up though.
Right.
Because I don't have a plug up there, so I figured I'll just put it up there. It looks good.
Yeah, it's got your face, right? Is that what? That's
what? Yeah, my face, the Good Guy Award. Yeah.
Yeah.
Took you guys long enough after dealing with y'all for 8 years, 9 years.
You earned it more than anybody. Talking to us out there every single.
I had some guy. It's kind of like the Patriots Hall of Fame now with a lot of guys. Like now you're about to get into the Gronks, the Devins, the Slates. It's going to be some tough sledding here going forward. You got all these guys going in. So I had didn't Devin win it when I was there?
Yeah, Devin got it. Slate win it.
Exactly. There was a pecking order.
Yeah. So now you'll wait your turn for the red jacket like you did the Media Good Guy Award. So that's what it is. All right, cool. Well, since again you kind of knew enough about media dealing with us for long enough.
Yeah.
But now you're fully on the inside. So I'm curious, 30 seconds, something that's surprising or totally new since this podcast has grown and now you're doing radio.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the interesting thing is I'm not a reporter. You are a reporter. I have no connection with the team. I'm not in there with the team, not around the team, not at practice. So to me, it's really just using my football knowledge. Because, not saying you guys don't understand, but I have a lot more knowledge of what is trying to be done, and which is always interesting because right now when I'm doing stuff, there's not a lot to talk about. There's not a lot of meat on the bone right now. It's all actual reporting stuff and speculation, which I hate. Because let's get to what matters here in the nitty gritty. So I'm very interested to get into it. I think the thing for me trying to figure out is like, I was so Bill Belichick media trained for so long, and I think I got really good at it. But not trying to be a jerk, but I had a responsibility to protect what I needed to protect and answer to the bosses I needed to answer to. And, now I don't work there. I think something, for me personally going forward, like I'm still a fan of this football team and I still love and care for this football team like I was playing because I put so much time, effort, blood, sweat, tears, whatever you want to say into the organization. Like for me to go out and just start bashing the Warriors, that's not what I'm going to do. I'll be critical of the team in certain situations, but Felger and Mass, if that's what you want, don't listen to my stuff.
I mean, I don't listen to them. I don't know how many people listen to this and listen to them because you will find more stone cold, sober football takes with some spiciness. I mean, Tom Curran blew us all away, willingly trading Steph Diggs already for Jacoby Myers the other day. But
That's an interesting take.
yeah, see, like I think there's a needle to be threaded, and this is where I try to live. We're like, yeah, sure, there's a little performative aspect to the podcast, but this is not pro wrestling where I'm going to say things that I don't believe. And you understand, like you could break down, pin and pull run. And like that's interesting because you adjust based on the fronts and who's going to pull and who's not. What are the rules? How does it work? Like this is the touchdown that if anyone watched North Carolina TCU hammered North Carolina the first play of that second half, and they're gone for 75 yards and a touchdown. But at some point, someone sitting in traffic at 93 hearing about pin and pull is just going to tune out. Have you figured out how to kind of balance like the entertainment piece that goes with the
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants right now and trying to provide what I think's important, what I believe happened, like even like the Peppers thing was a lot of talk today, right? Us releasing Peppers. And if you're sitting there thinking about it, who knows? We don't know what happened. There could have been something that happened inside the building that you can speculate and say what you want. Again, I'm not in the building. I'm not in the locker room. I have no idea. But if you're sitting there just looking at it from 10,000 foot view, okay, you got Duggar and Pepper, different players, but I would say similar type players, right? Yeah. All these reports, Duggar trying to get shopped, right? That was the thing a couple weeks ago, right? Is that you? All right, here we go. So Duggar's getting shopped. No one really takes any, bait on that. So then you're sitting there and you're like, well, why are we going to keep both of these guys with somewhat of a similar physical, downhill, bigger safety? Why are we going to keep both of them? Pep's less money than Duggar. I don't know how all the cap hit, but dead money, all that stuff. To me, you're probably thinking you keep the younger, and maybe Duggar goes out this year and has a role and plays great. And if you want to move on from him, then you have a trade maybe at the deadline. I don't know, but maybe it had something to do with that. I mean, time will only tell, and time will only tell a lot of the decisions any NFL team's made.
Yeah, and that's the tough part in the business, right? We can't be like, well, I'll tell you in 3 years because I have a lot of podcasts to do in the meantime. And some people take that I have to show to do as an excuse and a liberty, a license to say whatever you want, take whatever rumor and expand it and stretch it, where I think that's just kind of a waste of people's time if it's not true or substantive. We can speculate, but like keep an open mind that you could be very wrong, which I don't know this about you, even though we spend, a good amount of time together among all the players that I've covered. How do you deal with being wrong? Because it's going to happen the longer that you do this and you're talking to a microphone.
I don't know. That's the thing, though, because like I said, I don't feel like I've been wrong.
But you know what I mean? Like if you and Mackenzie are fighting, are you digging in no matter what, even when you know that you're wrong? Or are you going to eventually be like,
it depends. It's hard to put her in there because then you're adding a different, I think if it's something I don't know, I'm okay with being wrong. You add my wife, she'll probably tell you different, but me and her are both very hard-headed, and unfortunately that's passed down to our 4-year-old. So that's really fun when you got 3 hard-headed people just, going at it. And one of them's 4. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm interested to see, I hope I'm wrong on, everyone, the score predictions, or not score prediction, record predictions, the big thing, right? Everyone wants to talk about. Well, when I grew up in the NFL, we had a couple signs around the building. We had one on the front door and one when you were leaving. And it said one of the lines was manage expectations. And that always stuck with me because I think it's such a great thing and it covers a lot of things. You need to manage expectations for yourself, manage expectations for your football team, just anything. And it can be used in life. And so I that was pounded into me for so long. And then, now you get in the media role and it's like, what are they going to do this year? What's their record? And all I'm going back to is we got to manage expectations. But in saying that, being a fan of the team, I would love 8 games, 8 wins. That's kind of my threshold. 8 wins is a double your win total. Probably going to have 2 or 3 games in there where you look back like should have won. Mm-hmm. And then that's improvement. And then, but what I hope for is 10 wins and you get in the playoffs, and anything can happen. And the one thing I think that's interesting about the NFL is how they do their scheduling, right? Because now you're going to be playing all the worst teams from last year.
Yep.
And obviously not the division's one thing, but outside of that, and then you see what happened with teams like the Commanders. They go on that run. And, I'm not saying their schedule, they were a good football team. They're not a good football team to make it to the it's the championship
title game.
Yeah,
they overachieved, right? Like you outperformed expectations and probably what you would do in 100 seasons that were simulated.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's completely in the possible thing. But I think kind of going back to football, managing expectations as a fan, it's been so bad the last 2 years. 8 wins is a win right now. And then you're hoping that turns into 10 or 12 next year. And look, the roster is what it is right now. Good, bad, or indifferent. I don't think, Mike wasn't handed the keys to, a brand new Corvette. So, Raves is trying to, he's in the chop shop trying to get it there. And, you might have to go, steal a couple carburetors somewhere, I don't know. So, and then hopefully you can save up some money and, buy a, new paint job. So, we'll see. And, he's trying to do the best he can. And I'm excited, for the most part.
So you talk about managing expectations, and it's funny to see the Patriots revert back to what I would call Belichick adjacent media rules. Like those signs are not up in the same way, but Vrabel is managing expectations at every turn. And I even get this from some people I talk to off the record. The clearest example being injuries. I'm not going to set any timelines because it doesn't behoove them at all, right?
Yeah.
And things change with injuries. And the clearest example of that example is Christian Gonzalez, who hurt his hamstring over 5 weeks ago, has not practiced since. You threw out some chum into the Twitter waters the other day, being, hey, when are we going to be worried about this? Which is exactly what you should be doing as a podcast host now and as someone appearing on radio. So is this a big deal to you that we get the obvious, right? He's the best player on the team. He hasn't practiced. That's not good. But he's not on IR yet. Vrabel seems to hold out a little hope he could still play Sunday. What is your read as someone who's dealt with players and teammates who have had similar injuries, understanding Gonzo's situation is obviously his own?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's not – I knew what I was doing when I sent the tweet, right? I'm not that worried. I would say it is concerning to me that we haven't even seen him at practice. And I meant worried for week 1. Not worried. This isn't going to be a season. The worst thing the team could do right now with Gonzo, in my opinion, is put him out there before he's ready. Because someone asked me about that, and I kind of compared skill players and O-linemen. Skill players are like a fine-tuned race car. One little bolt could be messed up, and that car could go haywire, right? Where like an old truck, I think 90% of the time is going to crank up. Now, it might look like a piece of shit, but it's going to work. It's going to get you there. And that's how old linemen were. There was a lot of things I played with as an old lineman that maybe a skill guy couldn't play. And that's not taking away from their toughness. But like you take a guy like Matthew Slater, right? What was Matthew Slater's best aspect of his game? Speed, right? He could run. Well, if that guy can't run at 100%, then he's less effective on the football team. My speed was not. My hamstring could be ripped off the bone, and it really wouldn't matter if I couldn't run fast. It's a different game. And so for a guy like Christian, like Beetle on 985 today was like, was this a contract move? I would be worried if it was a contract move, if they were in negotiations and it kind of stalled, which is they're not in. So to me, it's not a contract move. He's probably thinking the same way the team's thinking, like, hey, we're not doing this until I'm ready, because what's the point of putting him out there week 1, right? When, I don't know much about the Raiders roster, but there's not a Devontae Adams or somebody like that, right? DK Metcalf, whoever you want to put. You got Jacoby, and, you got my Georgia boy, what's his name? Bowers. But Gonzo, is he going to cover Bowers all the time? No, I don't know. So, you're looking at it. If he goes out there for 12 plays and hurts himself and is out another 6 weeks, what did we accomplish? Right? I would rather have him against these Miami receivers next week or 2 weeks, I guess now you would say. So get him healthy. And it is hard. I think it's easier if you're in the flow of season and you have to have a down week because of something nagging you to go back out and play. But to not do anything since the first week of training camp or whatever it was and have 2 days of practice and go out there, that's tough. And so if I'm him, if I'm the team, we're saying, look, when you're 100%, we're going, especially at this time of the year. It's different, playoffs or whatever you're taught later in the year, like you're making a push, like you got to go. But at this point, having a healthier Christian Gonzalez helps this team more than him being out there at 80%, 85%, and then possibly missing another chunk of time. And that's what can happen with hamstrings and those type of guys. Those things can be nagging for them. And if you don't let it heal, like, you're dealing with it all year, and that's not good for the team, and it's not good for him.
Yeah, you hit on a lot there. And I think the bigger picture is the most important thing to keep in mind. He is a 23-year-old budding superstar. You have 1/17 of your season that's ahead of you. If he's unlikely to play, just shelve him. Just like the preseason games didn't matter, this is the least important but most anticipated game on the schedule. So naturally, being in the media side, as you'll find, the sight that we have is always right in front of our faces. It's so short-sighted because we've waited months to see football. He's the best player in the team, and you start inventing reasons and speculation, just like, why isn't he playing? The presumption that Christian Gonzalez is not playing because of the contract is so irresponsible and frankly disrespectful, because it presumes he is selfish, he's greedy, doesn't care about the team. Oh, and by the way, this part just doesn't make sense. What do 23-year-old superstars love to do most? Play football. Yeah. And if there's only one thing ahead of that, it's probably sex. So I don't want to hear this guy is just sitting on the sideline because he doesn't want to play.
That's what I would say. I would be more worried if they were in, which they can't even be right now, right?
Yeah, he's not extension eligible. That's
so if it was, he was eligible and there was talks about and then this stuff happened, then I'd be a little concerned. But that's not the case. So
no,
to me, it's
so we won't spend more time on it.
Guy's got a hamstring. This happens.
Which are tricky. It's really easy to re-injure those. But I want to move off the obvious now. This is a question I love asking guys that are fresh out of the game, because you live and breathe it inside the building. You go home, it's the same deal. What is something you've got your eye on that is not covered as much in the media or you wouldn't hear on the radio? And we could do the ninth lineman or the swing tackle, and that's fine. But I think there's probably something more that is interesting and more visible. You know what I mean?
I don't know if it's visible because I'm not there again, but I'd say leadership, and there's a lot of guys I don't know. And I think you look at a lot of positions, and again, going back to the state of the roster when Mike got it, he had to do what he had to do. You bring in a lot of these free agents. I think that can be hard on leadership. These are guys that just got here. And look, we have a lot of great history in this organization, but also it is time to move on from that history. That history is over with. Those guys are gone. Is there anyone on the team that's won a Super Bowl now?
No. Cardona was the last one.
That's what I thought. That's gone. And, it is time for them to move on, but when I look at it, there's not a group of guys from year 3 to 7 or 8 that were drafted, guys that grew up in the program, have been here a while, right? You got really Duggar and Mike, and who else?
Anthony Jennings, and that's it from the 20 class, and then you're into Mondre and Barmore.
Yeah, and which the team needs to get its own identity. And I think when I look at the teams I played on, especially when call it early in my career, are each team had its own identity, right, and own culture in a way. but there was a foundation of things in the past, and that was because you still had those guys like Tom, Julian, Gronk, Slate, like, and then then you had the younger guys like me, Joe, Ted, Shaq. Who else can we throw in there? I don't know, but you kind of had these like younger guys,
DYs, yeah,
DYs, Jay Jones, yeah, there you go. Bentley a little bit. Like you had these guys that kind of, and just with how drafts have gone for the organization the last however many years you want to say it, like you just don't have that. And so part of me worries about, the culture and leadership and things like that. Not that Drake isn't a good leader and can do it. But you
the
just
tight end who also got voted a captain, you can't count on. That's the tough part.
Who?
Exactly. You don't even
Hunter
Henry, 85.
Oh, why are you not gonna? Are you being a smartass?
Yeah, of course.
No, look, and I love Hunter, and Hunter's.
I know. That's why
Hunter came in, but also Hunter wasn't drafted here, and he's, to me, he's like a key cog of that organization now for a lot of different reasons, not just because he's a captain.
Yeah,
but you just don't have a big group of those guys, and so that's kind of something I have my eye on. Hopefully I'm completely wrong. And, hopefully I'm looking at this draft class that they just had of like, all right, now you've got some pieces to grow with this quarterback, right? Hopefully Kyle Williams can turn into something, right? I don't, again, I didn't watch much of training camp, but like you got him. Who knows what this Chisholm guy could do, right? Like, is he going to be the next Julian Edelman? Let's pump the brakes, right? But, could be a guy that's just a rock of this foundation for hopefully the next 10 years.
Yeah, I think what you're talking to the leadership too is the transition period, right? Which is not only just leaving the past behind, but starting something new. And so Will Campbell's another rookie, right? Like that dude was a 2-time captain. His time will come. But right now in this transition where it's comforting, Robert Spillane's been a captain before.
Yeah.
But it's overall kind of like a quiet group of guys where you don't have the Devin in the middle of the huddle. They don't have you in the middle of the huddle. It doesn't have to be fire and brimstone, but it needs to be something that like, okay, when you're down, you need a little bit of juice. There's got to be that type of personality. But in the course of the transition, I think that'll naturally emerge because leaders can be developed a little bit, but you can't start to walk start to talk the talk until you walk the walk, right? Like Will Campbell hasn't played an NFL snap yet.
No, and the biggest thing with leadership in general, people love asking. To me, there's no definition of leadership. All right. There's no way to point a finger on it. The biggest thing to me in leadership is being genuine. Because if you're not genuine and you're not who you are and you're not the same person every day, people will see through that and it's just bullshit. And so you can't bullshit guys in the NFL. Like maybe in college a little bit, guys are young, naive. But here, as a coach, as whoever, you can't bullshit people. So, and I look at a lot of our teams too, where, Dante told me something one time in leadership, like you got really 5% here, 90% in the middle, and 5% at the bottom. And the biggest thing is trying to get that 90% to pull with the 5% of your leaders, right? And if that 90% starts pulling with the 5% of your bottom, you're done. And I've thought about that a lot. And, especially kind of the last few years I played there, if you don't have enough guys pulling up, you're going to get pulled down quickly. And I look at a lot of the teams I played on, like, Julian was never voted a captain, and that is what it is. But like, you're going to sit here and tell me he wasn't a leader,
right,
in his own way. And guys like Deron Harmon weren't a leader. James White, James Devlin, like in their own ways, all these guys were leaders and did different things. Even Shaq and Joe were leaders in different ways, in the O-line room. Like, so, and Shaq could connect to people that maybe I didn't, if I talked to. He kind of went one ear and out the other. Or like it just is what it is, and that's what you need in any organization, football, business, whatever it is. So, but that's something that to me that's not talked about, and and no one really knows, right? I mean, you guys are in there, you guys get a feel for guys, but when the team's back's against the wall, which it's going to be at some point, game, whatever, how do they respond? And that'll be a big thing.
So I mentioned Robert Spillane. He's one of the defensive captains.
Yep.
The thing that I've got my eye on, and this is very small, and then we'll pivot to two X factors, offense, defense, and we'll get that final record prediction at you. The other inside linebacker spot's really interesting to me because I have all the confidence in the world that they'll be able to cover receivers for the most part, or as well as a lot of teams. But you still have to win the middle of the field. That's for the most part where games are won and lost. And Christian Ellis is athletic. He fits the physical prototype. They've rewarded him with this contract after the Raiders of all teams showed some interest. But his play diagnosis and instincts aren't there as the way I see it. And I think you can develop a little part of that. But there's a reason he was rotating with a guy like Jack Gibbons, who has those instincts and like the ultimate white football player cliche, but lacks a little bit of athleticism. And that's just who Jack Gibbons is. So how does that develop? Because I think there is a higher end outcome with Christian Ellis where you go him and Robert Spillane are covering sideline to sideline. That's great. Yeah. But the mistakes might be such that, as you saw a little bit last year, the Jacksonville game comes to mind, where you go, we can't afford those mistakes. We'd rather just have a plug, steady Eddie kind of player in Jack Gibbons. And that, to me, will affect not just the pass defense, but how you're kind of fitting the run with a lighter player.
You're always taking the good with bad with guys.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's very few perfect players. No one's perfect, but you know what I mean? Like a Tom Brady, all right, yeah. Who wouldn't take Tom Brady on their football team, and that's something the organization will have to decide. The coaches, even maybe like on the offensive line, right? Like you look at that sometimes where you're like, okay, this guy's not as good a player as X, but X isn't going to mess up. Which one are we more willing to live with? And those decisions have to be made sometimes. And, I even think about that like a little bit in 2021 with Big Mike and Ted Karras.
Yeah, great example.
There was a little like Mike had all the physical attributes. He was struggling a little bit in the offense, and he never played left guard. Mike always played on the right side. And I talked to him about that one day, and I was like, that's interesting. So kind of forcing Mike to play left guard, he was struggling. And obviously, like, Mike's more talented than Ted. Not that Ted's not talented. You don't play as long as Ted's had in this league and hang around and have the career without talent. But, and then it came to the point of like, all right, maybe we move Mike at tackle, which is a little bit easier of a position mentally, and put Ted in. And that's when I thought we flourished that year with an O-line, was kind of that grouping. And
well, and just to back you up on this, because I've rewatched this game and tweeted about it, because I just think I put it as like goddamn perfect. It was when Tom came back. Like Mike had back-to-back holding penalties in the same drive. Week 4, you're playing Tampa Bay on Sunday night, and he gets benched at half. Yeah. And there was Ted Karras at left guard for the rest of the season. And the next week, you guys go to Houston, and everyone got sick, and you had like 6 O-linemen and somehow made it work and had the comeback. But like it's not just, we'll kind of live with the mental mistakes. No, that's 20 yards going backwards.
Yeah.
Even just 10 of them often kind of kills a drive.
No. So, I mean, that would be something, that they'll have to live with and figure out. And I don't know Gibbons really. Like I said, I haven't watched him. No Ellis. He's a good player. But are you willing? Do you need the athleticism? And maybe it's something on third down. They, more passing situations. Let's put Ellis in there. Gibbons be there. On first down, run situations. So there's a lot of flexibility you can do with that, and defensive packages and ways to manipulate that versus maybe like an O-line position, because you can't, hey, it's third down, send in our pass blocking O-lineman, you can't do that. So
wouldn't that be nice though? You just get to move, step forward every snap if you were in the run blocking crew and just kick some ass.
Yeah, but then they know what's coming. That's like part of what makes
football
as an O-lineman great, is when you're having success, it's like, here comes counter, here comes draw, here comes play action, here comes a huge drop back because now it's 1st and 10 and we're going to take a shot. They're not ready for it. They're thinking it's run. The knowing what's going on as an O-lineman is what makes it bad.
Yeah. PrizePicks is back, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, and the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to people who have never even played fantasy sports. Because here's how simple it is. I'm watching the Sox on Tuesday at home, and I think Cedar Rafaela, who's on fire, or Jaron Duran, who's not, or Raymond Anthony, who's really coming into form, will have a certain number of hits or runs, or maybe a home run, or Walker Buehler's going to give up a lot of hits, but maybe bounce back. Boom. Those thoughts, those takes turn into cash, but only at PrizePicks. And here's how it works. All you have to do is build a lineup of 2 to 6 players. Every player comes with a stat. It could be hits, it could be runs, it could be walks. And we get into the football season, yards, touchdowns, you name it. They've got more stats and players than you can think of. You look at that player, you see their stat. You pick more or you pick less. And you do this for 2, 3, 4, 5, or even 6 players. Lock in your lineup, and that's it. You can win cash, withdraw it via Venmo, Apple Pay, however you want, quick and easy deposits. Again, you can mix players from sports, different games, teams, whatever it is. The best place to win cash while watching sports. So don't wait anymore. I have it still playing all summer and will straight through the end of the year. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. This is the best part. To get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, let's talk some offense. I asked you to prepare 2 X factors. I said kick all the obvious stuff to the side when I would ask you in press conferences and we talk about turnovers and explosive plays and no penalties and blah, blah, blah. We all get that. I'm going to lead off here because Traven Henderson, speaking of dealing with the media, thought I was trying to bait him when I asked a follow-up question about Josh McDaniels about a month ago. And he had said, Coach McDaniels really wants to focus and work on space plays. Get the ball to him, let him go to work. Demario Douglas, we know this. My first X factor, or key, or call whatever you want, is how many yards after contact these guys get. Because we know the lack of explosion in the skill position players, guys who, again, there's a trade-off, like we were just talking about. Jacoby Myers runs really great routes. You can play him inside now, tough as hell, but he's not breaking tackles. Yeah. Okay, you had a lot of running backs here who would break tackles, but then didn't have the explosive speed that Traven Henderson had. If this group can stay upright, but you get a lot of those extra yards after the play design is finished. Okay, you completed the pass, you hit counter, you hit draw, you hit whatever. How many yards are you getting on your own? Because that will take this offense from we can get by to maybe we can run it up if you're McDaniels in May to 30, 35 points.
So you're going yards after catch or yards after contact?
Yeah, yards after catch, yards after contact, like all that stuff.
Let me ask you this. From you like stats? Are you a big stat media guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, within context, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. So would you rather throw an 8-yard route or a 45-yard post? Stats? I'm just asking. No, seriously.
Yeah,
this is a big misconception on explosive plays. And I think you kind of answered it. But like, to me.
Well, can I answer it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think your instinctive response is going to reflect your personality, right? Someone who wants to take a more conservative, high efficiency approach would say, give me the 8-yard gain. 3 of those is 24 yards. The benefit of the bomb, obviously, is you might only hit 1 of 5, but over time, that average is going to be a little bit better than the 8 yards. So what I would tell you is the point of, and this is more Shanahan offenses, you package the high efficiency, easy throws that lead to a runway for the yards after catch. And the way that this offense is built, including the pass protection, I think you're better off with the 8, 10-yard chunks is how I see it.
Well, I'll tell you this. We won a lot of Super Bowls doing that. Yeah. And I mean, the play that's going to send Rob Gronkowski to the Hall of Fame was a 12-yard route over the middle off counter hot protection. And you give him the ball at 12 yards. Most NFL quarterbacks are going to hit that throw. Mm-hmm. Let's take the best player to ever do it out of the equation. They can hit that throw. And then you got a guy that is great with the ball in his hand, and he turns it into a 35-yard play. That's an explosive play. So you don't have to throw it 40 yards in the air to make an explosive play. And I think something, I watched they play the Colts. And who did they play in the preseason? Not the Giants. Who was before the Giants? The Colts?
Vikings.
I watched the Vikings game, and Devin had said something about receivers. Their 2 jobs are to get open and catch the ball. Well, he left out the third piece, which is to get open, catch the ball, and if you're special, do something with it.
Yeah.
And then literally Chisholm. How do you say his first name? Efton?
Efton. Yeah, real simple.
Chisholm literally caught like on third down, like it was like 3rd and 6. He caught a 4-yard route and turned it in like 12 yards. So as an offensive lineman, as managing a game, dealing with these pass rushers that every team has now, getting into those situations where you can give the ball to him, even Diggs on a crossing route, Henderson, which I think this guy's going to be so fun to watch. I think that's a great X factor because it is so true. Like that is a way to manage games, get people comfortable, protect your quarterback. And if you got guys that can make plays with space, like those are easy yards and easy completions that turn into big plays. How many times you see Julian catch 5-yard return routes that turned into 25 yards?
Yeah.
I still think about that play in Dallas all the time that he just looked like he was just running out in recess, like just making people miss, and my rookie year. But
it's kind of working smarter, not harder. You know what I mean? Like, just those designs. And that's the thing. Henderson didn't want to give up like what Josh was saying, and I didn't ask him to, but it seems to be a bigger focus this year than it was before because, it just given the personnel and how they're going to have to operate. And some of this might even go for May, right? Like if he can turn a 4-yard scramble or shake a guy and go for 12 instead, like that's a huge or sack avoidance, right? Like let's throw this in here if we're gonna do after contact and after the catch. Like it's a huge difference. Those guys have to create kind of on their own a little bit.
My X factor though, I think for me, you're not looking for a player, you're looking for a concept, right?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want, Dave.
And I hate to do this because it's just me, but if you're not going to say the offensive line's an X factor, you can't win without an offensive line. And the truth is, you've got 4 new starters, 4 new players who have never played in the system. And I'm tired of hearing people say Josh McDaniel's system's hard. It is not a hard system. It is a very different system. And if you understand the system, it's very easy to play in because everything works together and everything ties together.
Well, explain why it's not as complicated as everyone thinks. Like what's an example?
So like the way we would call protections, right? You knew what the formation was. You knew if it was 3-by-1, 3-by-2. Now you knew it was a dual concept, right? And that becomes a little harder. That is hard to do. But I did it in college. So at the University of Georgia, we ran dual protections. Called them almost similar system as we did in New England. And
tell us about dual protections because I know what you're talking about.
But dual protections is where the offensive line is accounted for multiple people. Most of the times on dual protections, you're working to the strength of the formation. So on dual protection, you're working strong. So you're going to make a mic point, right? And let's keep it in a 4-down, 3 linebacker shell, which is your typical 4-3 defense, right? You don't see a lot of that anymore because of substitutions, all that stuff. But so from there, you're working from the mic to the Sam linebacker to the star or any perimeter. Now, most of the time, your strength's going to be toward the field, so you're not really dealing with like a corner blitz because your corner is going to be out wider.
Patriots Daily is powered by GameTime, the best place to get last-minute tickets to all of your favorite sporting events. And this coming Sunday, Patriots versus Raiders in Gillette Stadium. Behind us, $208 is the get-in price right now. That is the all-in price, one of the best features of the GameTime app. There are no fees included. You get your total up front with no surprises at checkout. So head over there right now, get into this Sunday's game, take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with GameTime, download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account, use code CLNS for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the GameTime app today.
So at the safety position, right, if you have 2 high safeties, no real threat. But when the weak safety comes down, what it allows the quarterback to do is push the mic backside, which allows the center to go left now, right? And that allows 2 off the left side. Then also, if you're in dual protection and you have the mic right, and that's the side you're dueling to, the back now, if they're going to bring 2 off that side, right, which the offensive line would not be able to block because you have 2 D linemen, linebacker, and let's say a star coming. So you're not able to block those. The will's going to have to run in coverage to that side to protect from the two guys coming. Now that allows the back to scan across, and now the quarterback can throw, and he is protected in theory. Now, granted, the hardest part is actually blocking the assholes, but in theory, he is protected from that blitz. And then if you're not able, you don't have to throw hot routes all the time. And then when defense blitzes, right, they're gambling. There's going to be more holes that a defense has to deal with because more people are in the rush and not in coverage. So the system, in my opinion, gives the quarterback all the tools to protect himself, know where his problems are, and we barely threw hot with Tom. Now, Drake is not going to go out and operate this system exactly like Tom Brady did week 1. But if he has learned it and the team has learned it and works together, there's not a lot of problems you can't fix. And I'll tell you this, there was only one game where we were really in a pretzel, me and Tom Brady and the offense. And guess who that defensive coordinator, not even coordinator, guess who that defensive head coach was?
Rex Ryan?
Mac Vrabel.
Oh.
Because he knew the protection system and knew how to attack it. It was 2018 in when he was at the Titans, when we went down there.
Mm-hmm.
He had some blitz that was really hard on our protection system. And it was messing because he knew the rules. He knew how to attack it. And it messed with me. It messed with Tom. It was hard. And now, granted, there's some scheme things where it's really not hard, but you just can't block them. When he was in the Texans and that D-line with Watt, Clowney, Merciless, that was a lot of problems, not necessarily scheme, but, I mean, there's just 5. They had 5 D linemen that were problems to deal with.
Well, they would line up in that diamond front. So they're playing a 5-1 anyway that says, hey, we have 5 guys that are hard to block. We're putting them in front of each of your offensive linemen. Good luck.
Yeah, and you're putting Clowney over me and you know, I mean, that created its own problems. That's just matchup. That's not scheme. I mean, it is scheme, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, so, the 18 game is so good, too, because I remember from a coverage standpoint, and I don't know how much you ever got into this, they played so much inverted cover, too, that they'd start single high, and then that safety would drop down the middle like he's running the pole in Tampa, and then the corners would split or 2 low safeties would jump back, and then Pittsburgh did the same thing to you guys weeks later, when you had lost in December right before you make the run and go to the Super Bowl. So it's just stuff that obviously it's a copycat league, and I love taking the memory lane trip with you, but it goes to show like, hey, if that's the one coach zooming back to your offensive line rules that messed with it in your entire tenure, like really screwed you up.
That was the one.
And now he can fix that, right? Because he's on the same sideline. Yeah.
So I guess you would say offensive line play for me and the understanding of the system. Yeah. And those 2 things right there, because if you got guys that will play within the system, play by the rules, you're going to have success. I'm just telling you, in that offense, you're going to have success. And I believe you look at this, you can't tell me that overall the roster is not more talented offensive side of the ball. Now, is it what we're going to want it to be? Maybe not. Only time will tell. You know, are they going to have a really good O-line? Only time will tell. Is Trayvon Henderson as good as everyone thinks? Only time will tell. But on paper, which that's all we have to talk about right now, which I told you I'm getting sick of.
Yeah.
They are better. So, you know, we'll see.
I'll give you one more, and then we'll go to defense. First quarter scoring, right? Like you guys started so many games.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just your last couple of years of not being able to score, but the scoring margin, right? Like you want to dictate terms, and sometimes that means running the ball. Sometimes it means going tempo. But either way, it also means keeping them off of the scoreboard, because if this is going to be the best version of the Patriots I think we see, they are running the ball and they are playing defense, which means you have to not be down 10-zip going into the second quarter when everyone knows you have to throw and the other team can kind of do whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can have a game plan of like, hey, we want to run and control the game and know that and still be forced to throw the ball and feel okay. But when you have the game plan of like, we got to run and control the clock and then are forced to throw and you're not confident in that, that's a tough place to be, which I think 90% of teams, when they go into the game, we want to run the ball, we want to control the game. but like that's just not the reality. And you're gonna have to throw and you're gonna have to do it all. But yeah, I think first quarter scoring would be a big one. It is so much easier to play the game from ahead in all aspects of the game. And it's a hard game. So let's not make it harder on ourselves, boys. Like it's too hard anyway. So do everything we can to make it as easy as we can.
I like hearing from future Dave, who's going to be a high school football coach somewhere. Maybe it's South Shore, maybe it's back in Georgia. I don't know. Just right there. Like, come on, fellas. We can't make this harder. This is hard enough, you know? Stop committing stupid ass penalties. This is you facing a sideline. Yeah.
Look, that stuff's going to happen, but you know, there's no need to like overthink everything and panic about everything. You go out there and follow your rules, which, like I said, that's one thing about Josh's system. There are clear-cut rules, clear-cut protection systems, clear-cut answers to problems that very, very rarely you're going to come in there and be like, whoa, we don't have an answer for this. Now, we might not see those answers because they didn't get to them or they, whatever, but there's going to be answers to the test. There was a lot of tests I knew the answers to, but I still couldn't do the calculus problem. So here we are,
Yeah. I've said this multiple times. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. The premise of Josh's system is to give you answers to everything that you could see.
Yes. Okay. Offensively, from the O-line, receivers. And that's the thing, though. But if you're not playing within the system, it's no good, which, I think that's true for a lot of systems. Like, I don't think, Andy Reid just tells Mahomes, like, hey, here's the play. I write whatever. Go figure it out.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it happens, sometimes you just do that. And Drake's got some of that ability, which I'm excited because the one practice I did watch was the in-stadium practice. And I saw some different things from Josh where, where he was, he hasn't had a quarterback like Drake that he's really coached, that can move, but also has an arm. Like, so he's got a little bit of both, and like, to me, like they asked me today if I would want to run Drake more. Like, I'm not calling like power quarterback runs for him, but like, if we call a rollout and there's nothing there, go.
Yeah.
Like, don't sit there. Like, if you've got it, like, and that's something I think for him, the big development I'd like to see would be like just taking the profit. And sometimes if that profit is a loss, it's a loss. Like if the pocket's closing in on you, you've got no clear, way to get out of it. Like sometimes it's better to take a 5-yard sack.
Yeah.
Hold on to the football and punt the football. Like that's why we have defenses. That's why we have special teams. Who knows what's going to happen? Versus spinning out, getting strip sacked, or taking a 12-yard loss. Because maybe it's 2nd and 5, you take a loss, it's 3rd and 10. That's a hard position to be in the league, but it's not impossible. But just going from 2nd and 5 to 3rd and 15, that's hard.
Yeah, the best play, Tom did this more than any season of his career. I remember asking him about it. He threw the ball away more in 19 than ever before. Yeah. And that was the best play that you guys had just because sometimes the receivers recovered instead of taking a sack or risking a pick. Like you had a thinner margin for error the longer that season went on. So he just did that. And, I remember phrasing it in a way he was like almost a little offended. I was like, is it out of self-preservation? Not in a way that you're scared. Obviously, you're Tom Brady, but like, what is the biggest driver? Is it playing that long game or whatever? It's just like, that's the best play right there. Sometimes the play is broken.
Yeah, and that's what made him so good.
Got to get rid of it. Yeah. Yeah. And there's discipline in that. And I've talked about this where I think, you're right. Like May has to know the controls of the offense and the system and all the rules. Inevitably, he's going to be flushed outside of the pocket and he'll either create and we will shower him with praise for all of the playmaking, but that's also where trouble lurks and how he navigates those spaces without the rules and just having to react on instinct. Where first preseason game had the strip sack, then almost had a pick against the Vikings. You're like, that's the downside. But if he can avoid those and create more, like you're talking about, just take off. I think that's where the season's decided, but I've talked plenty about that.
And you don't want him to be a shell of himself. Like you want him to have some of that playmaking ability and gun shooter mentality, but it's learning when to pull your gun sometimes and when to put it in the holster. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, like, maybe it's not great to be in a shootout right now. Maybe we holster it and we'll get them when, we're ready, So, you don't want that to hamper him, but playing smarter and learning that, which I think is a learning curve for any rookie quarterback coming to the league. Guys are a lot different. They're a lot faster. Those open spaces in college aren't that open in the NFL, the closing speed, everything else. So, let's get to defense, though, because that's, I think, is an interesting part of this team.
So I have two keys, X factors, whatever you want to call them. The first one I already hinted at, so I'll make this quick. The coverage of running backs and tight ends to me is going to be huge because I have so much faith in Gonzo whenever he does come back. Carlton Davis, even when he misses time, Alex Austin will be fine. This is a new quarter scheme. They're still adapting. I think that'll be fine. But how do they react when it comes to a Brock Bowers? Because, again, the Gonzalez thing I'm not as worried about for week one alone, because that game is going to be about how well they defend Brock Bowers. And if it's not Spillane or Christian Ellis, it's going to be a rookie safety in Craig Woodson or Jalen Hawkins, who for most of his time in New England been a really solid contributor, but
so
no one counted on as a starting safety.
Who's the fifth DB if they're in a substituted defense?
So if they're in three corner nickel, you're looking at Marcus, obviously. But if they go big nickel, I think it's Del Pettis right now.
Over Duggar,
yeah. I mean, Kyle was on scout team Monday wearing an 11 penny, meaning he was simulating Jeremy Chin. Yeah. So it's maybe that changes, but that's how it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say who's going to be starting or who should be. That's dumb for me to do. But I think that is a good point because I do think the two biggest mismatches in the NFL can be running backs and, I mean, obviously, like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, like those guys are mismatches. That
goes without saying. Yeah.
Not saying they're Randy Moss, but you get what I'm saying. And, but I looked at our teams when I played, we didn't have those guys. But what made mismatches was like, all right, who's covering Gronk? Okay, that guy. Who's covering Julian? Okay, that guy. All right, who wants to cover James White out of the backfield? Who wants to have fun with that? So I do think that's an area where a lot of teams can have success. Now, granted, it's really hard to throw to your running back 15 times a game. That's unlikely, but they can be huge plays. They can be huge plays in the sense of like a 3rd and 7 that you throw Henderson, again, going back to what we talked about. So throw him a 5-yard pass, turns into 12. Like that's a huge play in the game. So I don't know what their plan is. It'll be good because I think Brock Bowers is probably up there as one of the top 5 tight ends in the league right now.
Special, man. Special.
So I'll be interested to see how they cover him this week. I think my thing is going to be pass rush. Whereas offensively, it takes 11 guys to make a play work, right? You could be struggling in coverage and you have a great pass rush and no one knows,
It's kind of nice. Yeah.
It's the truth. Like Josh McDaniels said this one time, and I thought it was so true. He goes, they could blow every coverage and Aaron Donald could get a sack or pressure every game and no one would know. Yeah. And I was like, that is so true, right? Because if you blow a coverage and you've got Aaron Donald in your lap in 2 seconds, like it doesn't matter. Like nobody's getting that ball out. You can't read it fast enough. So I think the pass rush can help with a lot of those things. Hopefully Christian Barmore returns to what he looked like he was in, was that 23?
The end of 23 especially, yeah.
Yeah, 23. So hopefully he returns to that. That's going to create a lot of problems for O-line.
Can I ask about Barmore really quickly? Because I just think people forget what that looked like in 23. And you saw him more than anybody in practice.
Yeah.
What was your in-house scouting report of what Christian Barmore and why he was a problem especially in those later months?
Christian's got a unique set of skills. He's long, first of all. He's very long. He's powerful. He's tall. And he really does try at his craft. Like he used to ask me all the time what I thought. And I would beat him on one-on-ones and he'd want to know, why I could beat him there, why I thought whatever. Then when he beat me, he just wanted to let me know how much he beat me. Like, all right, but I'm sitting here giving you the tools and you're just going to come out there now try to embarrass me. But that's what makes it fun. But he's got a unique skill set. He's disruptive. He's long. So that's a great strength, right? And we talk about arm length all the time. And, it's not the end all be all. Like, I survived 10 years in the NFL and had a very successful career with short arms. So it's not the end all be all, but it poses a problem. And it's knowing how to use that, play within your strengths, and so if I could get to Christian without him letting him get his arms extended, I was going to be okay. But I think as an offensive lineman, when you're coming in there and it's Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, you can't afford to send help one way or the other. One of those guys is getting a one-on-one, and it kind of goes back to what Philly had last year, like Milton Williams, Jalen Carter, like. Not saying Milton Williams, Jalen Carter, but like those are two really good pass rushers inside. So the pass rush to me is something I'd look for. Obviously, Christian's making a lot of money. You pay Milton Williams all that money. Harold Landry. You want to see the production as an organization of the benefits you're giving to those players, right? You're paying them all the money. You want to see the production now. And we'll see what Milton Williams does. I guess on the second part of that, I would say the run game is a little, could be a little concerning to me.
Run defense, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, run defense, yeah. Milton Williams, it's been talked about, obviously, he didn't play a lot of football. Christian has not played a lot of football the last year. I did see Christian the other day. I thought he looked great weight-wise, thought he was down some pounds. But you don't have those bigger run stoppers in there. And so what's the depth like inside for the D line? And, I think that's a big thing. And having those D linemen can help those linebackers, right? It's the same thing. Playing linebackers is the same thing as running back. How much are your D linemen helping you? How much are your O-line helping you? Mm-hmm. That's just the truth.
What do you think of this system? Because it's taken me a while to adjust as someone who watched, Bill call variations of the same system for years and years and years. And, I think the two gapping was maybe overstated a little bit towards the end. This was a hybrid front. Then they're getting into base nickel, and you can't play that way across the front with the two gapping. But this is don't read and react. This isn't just one gapping. This is just fuck shit up kind of defensive scheme. Like, aside from guys going by you is hard to stop. What makes this a problem for the style of defense when you faced it?
Yeah, I mean, look, each defense you play, each scheme has good and bad things in it, right? Like, when we play a one gap team, you're going to have a little bit of a problem in certain areas. Now, it also allowed you to run plays like wham, blast, because it created, like, you wouldn't want to call blast against Vince Wilfork, right? Because he's going to be sitting right there and there's no hole. Like, you run blast with a guy that's like, boom, boom, boom. He comes and gets T-bone. You've created a huge hole in the center of your defense. So in the one gap scheme, you get holes created in different ways. Whereas the two gap, you got guys, it's a wall, right? Yeah. And that's what you're trying to build. Now, like I said, I don't know, like I don't know enough about defensive football schematically to really give an answer which one I think is better. I played them both, obviously. Some days I got my ass kicked and some days we kicked ass. And it wasn't because that was a one gap team. It just how it went sometimes, and I do think the penetrating style of defense creates more negative plays and more problems than a two-gap defense. I think if you're not being able to penetrate and cause disruption consistently, it creates more problems.
Yeah, and then that would back I know they're taking more of an analytical viewpoint than at least, the coaching staffs you did. And not in terms of thinking critically, but just in terms of the analytics, like the number piece, where the defensive version of an explosive play, right? You wanted to hit 8 or more, or whatever the checkpoint was for 15 yards or more in a given play. The defensive version is a negative play. As soon as those happen, the probability of a drive going longer or surviving that, a sack, a tackle for a loss in the backfield, whatever, plummets. So if your defense is designed to achieve more of those plays, of course, with the
100%.
risk-reward trade-off, analytically over time, that's probably going to help, as opposed to sitting, waiting, hoping, or playing a more controlled front.
And look, a negative play is a holding penalty, which I think you see more on penetrating fronts, are some holding penalties and different types of things. So, look, it creates different problems, right? Like you don't want to run a draw against two gap schemes, right? Because they're going to be standing there. So, it's, we'll have to see. I'm interested to just see how the defense looks overall when we get in a real game. I hate the preseasons. The last few years have become bad. I mean, we used to play into the third quarter, that third preseason game, we were out there, we played at least a halftime and usually the first drive of the third quarter, especially if we got the ball and receive. So it's hard to tell, like when you're watching, and I'm excited to see, them fly around and play, which I think, I only played Spillane, I think once or twice maybe, but I had a lot of respect for him when he played in Vegas, like the way he moved, played
22 and 23.
I think twice, right? I didn't know if he was there in 22 or not, but
22, he might have been with the Steelers.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's going to be a different defense, as in guys flying around and trying to create problems. Not that we didn't have that at times, especially when I played under Bills, like, a lot of the exotic stuff, like that was a lot of Bill and Matty P coming up with some of this stuff, right? And you saw Matty P, what he did to Texas this weekend, like that was awesome. Like him throwing out a rocker blitz against college kids is just brutal.
Was that the coffee house stunt?
Yeah.
It's great.
That's hard for the guys, especially if you haven't seen it, right? Which college, there's so much unknown in week one, which there is a little bit of that in the NFL too. So I just think I'm excited to see a different style of defense. Now, whether it's good and bad, again, only time will tell. I'm excited to see, though, like Milton Williams and Christian Barmore try to just wreck shit. Let them go. Let those guys go. Yeah. Let's see what happens, and like I said, it could be good or bad. Like at the end of the day, you still got to be a football player. Sure, you ran 10 yards upfield, but like didn't do anything. Like, great. Like that was sometimes you get those D linemen in, that kind of style of defense, and they were just like dogs in a meat house, just all over the place, and so you still got to be a football player and have those instincts in that style of defense. It's not just pin your ears back and go. To me personally, that's what I think, because sometimes you play those guys and they just be, I'll just run you this way, and there goes the running back. So it's the guys that understand the fine line in it, I think, where you reach really good players.
Yeah, because you guys punished teams like that for years. The all gas, no breaks, first version of Robert Saleh and the Jets. You just screen them to death and draw them to death and misdirection here and there. And like you're saying, the dogs
can create the defense can get on levels, and it creates very bad problems.
Yeah. The one other thing I have for my second kind of key X factor thing that I'm looking at, I have no idea how this was going to go, and it's Terrell Williams calling plays for the first time. Like I know he's aligned with Vrabel in the vision and the techniques and the philosophy about how they want to play defense. But, back in the day, and they're starting to get back to this a little bit more, the start of the week was like the coaching philosophy and how teams want to win, right? These are the strengths, these are the weaknesses, but get inside the mind of the D coordinator. And when it comes crunch time, and like we talk about with Drake and his reflexes outside of the pocket, when you have very little time and you're under a lot of pressure, what do you do? What do you fall back on? And Terrell Williams is a defensive line coach. Is he going to be reluctant to blitz, even though it might call for it? Is he going to have a favorite coverage? Like those tendencies will have to develop, and then teams will adjust to them, and he's got to be ready with counters right away. But what they are, aside from a base quarter scheme, I don't know, but I'm excited to find out.
Well, I have a lot of respect for Vrabel, like I said, because of the game plan he had against us in 2018. And I don't know how much he was involved in the game planning. I would assume a lot, because he knows the system. He knows the strengths and weaknesses, like I've said. So, you got him working on that side of the ball too. obviously his background. You know, that's something where I think, like, you're right, though. Like, what is his bread and butter? How does he settle? Like, sometimes being a coordinator is when things aren't going well, how do you settle it down? Right? Like, they get down 14 points. Both coordinators got to figure out, how do we settle it down? Josh can't score 14 plays in one drive, right? Or one play. There's no play design that does that. There's really no play design that says this is going to score a touchdown. So, how do you settle it down? How do you get back in control of the game? And that's what, I think will be interested to see, which you kind of hit on, with Williams. So I guess my second X factor defensively would be.
I think we're at 3 now. I think we're at pass rush, run defense.
Yeah.
I'll give you a bonus.
Oh, I thought you did 2. I did 1.
Oh, no. No, we talked about the pass rush and then the run defense, the smaller D tackle.
Oh, yeah, those were my 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Season prediction time. Final record.
Yeah, I love this shit. This is so much fun.
Do you want to go
also
first?
My problem. I got like a jaded view of media. I gotta, I am the media now.
Yeah, you are. Do you want to rip the Band-Aid or do you want me to do it for you?
I'll rip the Band-Aid.
Okay. What is the Patriots record at the end of the season?
8-9.
Why?
And I say that from a fan perspective because, and again, it's my managing expectations, but if I'm a fan and they go 8-9, I'm happy. It's improvement. They're moving in the right direction. It's not perfect. The roster wasn't perfect. There was not a lot of great situations, coming into this job. You had, really one key piece, which you think, right? And that we're all hoping that key piece is Drake. And he is the next quarterback for the next, hopefully, 15 years. But 8-9 is improvement. But in saying that allows me to be really happy and be like, yeah, I knew they could get to 10. Versus you set the bar at 10 and they go 8-9, and now you're like, damn, man, So I say 8-9 as a fan, leaving room for excitement. I want to leave room. I want to leave the glass half full so they can fill it up for me and make the playoffs. And who knows what happens then? That's all you got. You just got to get there.
I think they get there.
You're 10?
I got 9-8. And
9-8.
Even with the expanded playoffs, the only sure ticket, just as it was in the 16-game era, is to still win 10 games. So they fall short. I just think in the greater AFC, there aren't that many teams that are getting in their way. And there are no teams, as it stands right now, that have an easier schedule. This, of course, presupposes good health. It presupposes Mike Vrabel provides all those winning edges that have been missing in game management and all these different things in the analytics. But, man, I've said 9-8. And even with watching the offensive line shuffle around and develop, and they're going to build chemistry, there's just enough here where I think all of those bad breaks you had to sit through or watch once you got banged up and talk to us about and answer questions and just all the shit that you slogged through, like Andy Dufresne at the end of your career, and you came out, instead of finding freedom, you found retirement forced upon you. I think the breaks start to come. And for you, you're on a couch with a beer and celebrating. For me, I get to watch and cover a functional football team without the end of the season story of how did this happen again waiting for me. And I think they make the playoffs and get the last wild card spot with a finale, by the way, that will be against the Dolphins team that everyone is projecting just complete doom and gloom for. And I think,
I mean, but that's what makes the NFL this great business model is how they construct it. And it allows, if teams, now granted, like sometimes the Browns couldn't get out of their way, right? But it allows bad teams with the pick order, the draft order, the schedule. It allows you, if you try to do all the right things and hit on all the pieces you need to, it allows that parity of the NFL. And, I think if I'm looking at the AFC, the teams where I'm like, all right, Broncos, I would pick to be pretty good this year.
Yep.
Chargers, I pick pretty good. Chiefs, the Bills are going to be there. Baltimore's going to be there, barring injuries, right? Barring all of that. Like, those are teams right now that I'm like, they're going to be there. Probably
Houston.
Cincinnati is probably going to be in the mix somehow, right? Who knows? Yep. But with the quarterbacks, you can't count out, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and count out Matt Stafford. Like, those are
Georgia boy. Yeah.
Well, that might have something to do with it, but let's take that out of it. But you're not going to sit here and count that out. And then you look around the division, like Miami's going to be hard to go down there in week 2. It always is. That's just the truth of the matter. But guess what? They get to come up here in December, and we all know how that team fares in these games. It's the same. It's the Achilles heel of playing in a place like that. So, I mean, there's no doubt that they can go 10-7 for me. From my experience managing expectations, I'd rather say 8-9. They go 8-9. I'm happy. They go 10-7. I'm elated. Yeah. And hell, these sons of guns could go 12 and I got to do my math now. The 17 games still
12-5.
12-5. I want to say 12-4 so bad.
I know.
I also hate how you can't go 500 anymore.
No. The 16-game era and the 2 wild cards was the peak of, as far as I'm concerned, to scheduling and playoffs in the NFL. Like we're past it. But
I'm done with college football 12 playoffs. But
yeah,
that's another. Maybe this is a bye week show we do. Where we just go through my gripes with
grievances.
Football. Yeah. But
Well, look, I think that's a fair attitude. Right?
Yeah,
because if we're being honest, this team is in year 1 of a rebuild. And there are reasons to be excited. The young quarterback, all the free agents that have arrived, some cornerstone defensive players. Oh, and a guy who we haven't even talked about for this entire podcast, Stephon Diggs, or we mentioned once by you and a crosser, maybe he picks up some YAC, who could change how this offense is depending if he ever gets back to the form he saw last year. And we don't know if that's going to be the case. But that's something that Josh has not had to work with since Prime Jules. And those are very different players. So there's a lot to like here. I want to get you out on this real quick. A week 1 story. Anything you got? It's something you haven't shared before, or it's a little funny, or might surprise us just about the season opener, the lead up, the game, or the aftermath.
So I guess let's go rookie year, right?
Steelers Sunday night.
Thursday night, banner drop, first start. I'll never forget it. We weren't even engaged, but my girlfriend Mackenzie was there. My wife now, obviously. I was still living in the Residence Inn in Foxboro, free. Thank you, Patriots. Until I got the call that they were kicking me out, but just unreal game. We didn't have, now with the new CBA, they get the Labor Day break, we didn't have that. I think we had like maybe 2 days, something like that. Like not a lot. We didn't get a lot of days with Bill.
Yeah. No days off, I heard.
Yeah. They used to say that, huh?
Drake did the other day. I don't know if it's making a comeback with Vrabel, but it's here. It's in the zeitgeist.
Not everything that guy did was wrong. So,
no.
But so we go and win the game, and I'll never forget. We go in the weight room. There's a little turf area right off the weight room in the locker room. I know it's blocked off for y'all. You guys don't really see that much, but
there's a curtain. Yep.
Slate or Devin, I forget who brings us in there. Probably Slate. After the game, it's like, it's giving us the weekend off. Everyone be safe, and everyone lost their shit. So fired up to get 3 days off, and for me, it was fun because I hadn't seen my wife in a while, and she was in town, and I was like, hey, like, I got to go. I'll be gone all week, all day Friday because I have to work. We'll get Saturday, and she was flying out Sunday. So, like, we only really had 1 day. So it gave us 2 days to enjoy. I'll never forget, we went to the Melting Pot in the Providence Mall. Isn't that the fondue place? Melting Pot?
If there's not a fondue place named the Melting Pot, there should be, because there could be.
I'm pretty sure it was. And, like, we had no idea where to go or what to eat. I didn't know. I hadn't explored, really. I was so locked in training camp and everything else, trying to make the football team. And so we went there for our dinner, and that Saturday we ended up going to Boston.
Cleary.
We started at Jerry Remy's.
Oh,
Which I forget what it's called now, but we started there.
it's had a lot of names. Tony C's maybe.
Tony C's maybe now, yeah. Started at Jerry Remy's. I think she put on Facebook, like, where can we watch the Georgia game? And that introduced us to Cleary's, and we went to Cleary's, and I just had a great time. I think they were playing South Carolina, and I don't know. I'll always remember that weekend, and it introduced me to more. And at the Melting Pot, someone recognized me for the first time, which was kind of cool. And then, we've been in Cleary's a lot now since that weekend to watch Georgia games. My wife I think she watched one of the national championships there a few years ago. So, always remember that weekend for a lot of reasons. And it was also the first time, like, Gronk was so dominant in that game that was like, I was just like, holy hell, like, this dude's unstoppable. Like, you knew he was good, but like when you witness it for the first time in person where like no one can stop him, I think he might have had 3 touchdowns. I was just like, this dude's unreal. So, that game I'll always remember. Week 1, the getting to see that side of Bill, like, giving us the day off, which I think he got a bad rap for, and I think he managed stuff as best as he could with trying to keep everyone in the dark and focused. And it made you enjoy those Victory Mondays and days off so much more when you didn't know they were coming, When you fought for them and died, and, Victory Monday, you were just like, it was the greatest. It's like, if you give your kid ice cream every day, like, and then you ask him if he wants to go get ice cream, he's probably just like, yeah, well, we do this every day. Versus, like, you don't get a special treat. You're like, ice cream, So,
yeah. My man, I love it. It's a well-rounded perspective. I mean, you had told me part of that story, obviously, because I knew the Cleary's bit, but
yeah,
I think a good reminder for everyone listening. Like, look, we all together, players, coaches, media, fans, zero in on that 1-4 window for the Patriots this year, and they're going to play the Raiders. What that game means to the guys who are actually going to participate and are not in the press box or on their couch, like, is not only a whole lot within that window, but in afterward and how you experience life. And then it goes on for a season, or in your case, 10 more seasons, 9 more seasons, for a whole career. So there's obviously we're all here for the football, but the way that it kind of ripples into the rest of your life,
it does.
There's a lot. Guys are going to move on.
You're more willing to, when you're having success and someone calls you to do a charity event or do something, or where you're going to have to deal with media, you're like, yeah, I'll do it. Versus, like, those things become a lot harder and it's not y'all's fault. I'm just giving you the perspective of a player. When you're struggling and you had to sit up there and answer those tough questions, do what you had to do, and then you're at a charity event and you're also having to answer the same questions again, that you don't want to, like, that's hard. It's hard, and you don't want to do that stuff. But, when the community's behind you and things are going well, and I do think, like, that was always important to me. Like, no matter what, like, if I'm doing something off the field, I'm going to try to do what I do, no matter what, win, lose, or draw, because that's part of being a man and an adult. Like, you have responsibility, but just in the grand scheme of things, they're a lot more enjoyable when you're winning, right? And I noticed that at some of these charity events, when, like, we're winning, everyone wants to go. Now, when we're losing, there's only a few guys that really want to take their time and do that stuff. So, which is fine. It's part of it, but you're right. It completely just changes everything. Everyone's happier when you win. Let's be honest. And at the same, like, the whole no fun thing, which I like, just going on here, I'm rambling, but the no fun thing, I had a hell of a lot of fun when we won. Those 2 things right there, that shit was fun, and there's really only 1 year that I look back on in my career where we weren't great, that I was like, that was a fun year. And that was the COVID year. Yeah. And part of me, because I knew that was the last time me, Joe Tooney, and Shaq were going to play together. You just knew that was happening. And so we soaked up so much of our time together, because we knew it was ending. And so that's the only year I look back on and, puts a smile on my face in that time because, like I said, I knew it was coming to an end and we soaked it up with each other. But if you're not playing to win the game, it ain't fun. You ain't going to have fun. And if you do, those guys you don't want on your team. So that shit will weed itself out. But that's my soapbox right there. Probably, I got a lot of soapboxes.
It's good we're getting this out. You're going to be on the radio and having to keep this tight. And
yeah, you didn't know it, but this was therapy for me. So
good. Look, this was my pleasure. I don't say this because I'm going to have to see you in the locker room the next day or any kind of pleasantries. Like you and I spent a whole morning fishing together. We've had other chats, and I really appreciate you making time, especially on short notice. And tell everyone else where they can find you now moving forward.
Yeah, so you'll find me every Monday, 11 to 12, Zolak and Beetle going over the post game. Believe Alex Barth has a podcast. I don't know when it comes out, but I'll be doing some of that with him. And then you'll hear me some pregame with the Patriots, whether that's the podcast or live. And then obviously the kind of big project is Quick Snaps with NBC Sports Boston. Super excited for that partnership. It'll be a TV show, I believe, Wednesday night at 6. The podcast will come out, I believe, Wednesday, anywhere you get your podcast. But NBC Sports Boston, they're going to try to get the best 24 minutes we got, I guess, and turn it into a TV show. So excited about that. The partnership, they've been great to work with. Don't have to log on to this computer, even though I was really excited about moving and getting an office because I didn't know that was going to happen, when we were in talks. And it's like, yeah, I'll finally have an office, a nice place to do my podcast. So, yeah, check us out. Quick Snap.
Awesome, man. If they give you 90 minutes, like we would give you on the Pats Interference podcast, you could definitely find a good 24 because I've had about 3 different promos hit me as you're talking, and we're going back and forth of what we could tease on social media, which should do very well. So, welcome to the biz, my man. You are fully in it, 10 toes in.
Let's see if I can get a badge and get in the locker room.
Yeah.
They might not like that, though. I'd probably be in the equipment room, strap it up. And like, I'll go play today. Like
Vrabel would probably toss you a blocking slip.
Yeah, Vrabel would be like yanking me by the collar out of there. But
no. I'll make a call. See, I don't know if you know this guy, Stacey James. He owes me a favor, too, so we can.
I've hit Stacey up for a few things. I still got – Stacey's got like a big poster from my retirement. I got to go get from him, but he's got a lot in his office. It was one of the first times I've been in Stacey's office, and that's a cool office. He's got a lot of stuff, so I figured I'd let him hold on to it for a little while.
I had never been to Stacey's office. I was in what was Bill's old office for the first time for talking to Vrabel about Stretch the other day. That
was a cool article. I like Stretch. Stretch has got a cool story.
Appreciate you reading. Yeah, super smart guy. And but I was just like, what is Braves going to do with all this space? What did Bill do with all the space? That's like off to the right. You know what I mean?
I love Bill's office, man.
It's massive.
So much cool shit in there. God,
yeah.
So much memorabilia. He had a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, probably like Sun Tzu's underwear, just somewhere in there, along with the art awards.
It's just the Navy stuff, the military stuff. It was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Saban's office, you seen the pictures of that.
Like, yeah.
There's something about it. Just the old ball coach's office.
Mahogany, just dark. Yeah, just very sophisticated. For guys who then go to work and, cut off sweatshirts and short shorts and straw hats.
That's best thing, man.
Yeah.
Work clothes, sweats.
Yeah, the best. All right, I'll let you go. Thank you again for taking the time. Definitely have you back if you can find some time in your busy schedule. But, man, you're going to get your wish. We got 5 days left. Ball is going to be here, and we'll have a lot to talk about.
I can't wait.
See you, buddy.
See you, man.